Can still hear it a bit, Simon.
Oh, it's not mine, Warden, because it's turned off.
Okay. We're going live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Recruiters Hangout. Thank you so much for joining us. Sorry, we are just on time. I'm coming from you from the top of the control tower, the colleague office in Norwich, as always. Thank you very much for joining us. We've got a special RecHangout today because it's a Marketing Digital Recruitment Award special. This is our second one. We did one last year when it was called the MDRAs, and it's appropriate then that our topic is focusing on how to find and recruit the missing digital marketing specialist. We, as always, the RecHangout is supported by Colleague Software, but also UK Recruiter, and Louise Triance will be keeping an eye on the hashtag RecHangout, where you can join us with your tweets and conversation and questions. We're also joined by Mark Stevens and from Smart Online Recruit, or Smart Recruit Online, and they're also sponsors. And of course, our main host, Alan Whitford from Abtech Partnership, who will be leading the way today with the questions, as always. Our main guests, thank you very much for taking a time out, an hour out to join us. We've got Joe Curtis, Director at Specialist Digital Recruitment Agency Free Search. We're joined by Jamie Webber, who's the Director also of a digital recruitment agency, RedCat Digital. And we've got Mark Russell, Inbound Marketing Executive at PH Creative, and we've asked Mark on especially to talk about from a marketing consultancy point of view, but also as co-supporters of the Marketing Awards, Marketing Recruitment Awards, and Dave Hazelhurst, also known as Google Dave, will be hosting the awards there. And of course, we're also joined by Simon Lewis, who's founder of Edge Global Media Group, owning Marketing Jobs and the Marketing Awards themselves. So, Alan, I'll let you take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis, and welcome everyone. This should be a fun-packed day as we get the digital marketing people to talk to us about how they might actually use digital to go find recruiters that are in digital. I know it seems a bit like cobbler's shoes, but I think we're going to have some surprising comments. What I'd like to do is have each one of you sort of introduce yourselves very briefly and what your sort of main thing about life is, or if not life, at least about digital recruiting. But Simon, let me kick off with you first, just to just tell us, like, what are the MDRAs really all about, and let everybody know that they got a shot to still get in, or is it all closed off now?
No, Alan, no, it's all closed off. So the acronym now is MDRAs, so cleverly disguised, which was previous to MDRAs, which was the Marketing Advertising Recruitment Awards. We've now opened or dropped the advertising part to incorporate digital to make it all a bit more contemporary. So now we're Marketing and Digital Recruitment Awards. We've got pretty much all tickets sold now for the event that takes place on 25th of November, which is a showcase celebration in Hilton Metropole. There are going to be in and around about 400 people in attendance, made up of digital and marketing recruitment agencies and suppliers to that market also. So looking forward to a really great time. As always, it's the 6th year this year that we've been hosting it.
Great, and you're going to tell us who won? Just thought I'd try that out.
Taking place yet, Alan? So no. Yeah, no, it's a good go. It's a good go. Listen, I get sent a lot of stuff in the post, Alan. It takes a lot more than a simple request, believe me.
and I've got this diamond mine in Nigeria for you as well. That's great. Well, looking forward to the awards. So let's talk about our panel. Joe, why don't you kick it off? Who are you? We'll tell me a little bit about you, and then what you're doing here today.
I'm a director of a business called Free Search. We're a marketing and digital recruitment specialist based in Victoria and London. We are a small team of 7 of us now, and we concentrate across client-side digital recruitment with some marketing recruitment as well. But no agency side, client-side stuff across all industries throughout the UK and bits and bobs abroad as well. I'm here to have a chat about digital candidate acquisition and the different ways we go about it.
Okay, excellent. We're looking forward to the contributions today. Jamie, what are you guys all about?
Hey guys, well we RedCat were formed in 2000, so we were formed to focus and recruit for the needs of the new media sector of the time. So I think I'm probably showing my age with the terminology to start with, but so we're up to about 22 people now across client side, media owner, agencies, whether they be design and build, media, so pretty much right across the board in startups. So I think sort of subjects that we're going to be discussing now are really relevant, because I think with the way the market is, top talent is really tough to find. So I think it's great just to share knowledge and experience and just to share good practice basically in the market as well.
Okay, excellent. And Mark Russell, inbound marketing, that sounds intriguing. What does that actually mean?
Inbound marketing is what we specialise here at PH. So it's all about bringing your customers to you using the tactics like content marketing, SEO, PPC, social media. So a wide range of online tactics, and we do that a lot for recruitment companies, agencies. We give some consultancy basis on, and also we work with in-house teams, which has been quite big recently.
Okay, that's great. So it sounds like we got a good combination of kind of raw agency through to working very closely with the in-house teams. Why don't we kick this off with perhaps one theme, which is there actually a shortage of expert digital marketing specialists? And Mark, as long as you're up, carry on with that. Is there a shortage?
I think, I'm not sure if there's a shortage, but I do think it's hard work to get them in. Like the clients that we work with, what we've found is a lot of them have to either hire an apprentice or, well, we advise hiring an apprentice and training them early. So, for example, people that are used to social media and people that can go out and make conversations and are comfortable with the platforms tend to be of a younger age. But at the same time, they miss the strategic, the top level kind of knowledge. But that's where when they partner with an agency, that's when they can kind of guide the strategy. And then tactics-wise, it's someone that's maybe a bit more comfortable with the channels doing that.
All right, Joe, how are you finding it? Is there a shortage of people when you're out there trying to find them for your customers?
I think you're on mute, Joe. Sorry.
Sorry, I missed that was directed at me then. Yeah, we are finding certainly in specific areas there is a shortage of candidates, and it's the same areas that have been in short supply for the past few years, to be honest. So the analytics candidates, the specialist search candidates, definitely there's a shortage for our clients and our customers. What I would say is I don't think it's fair to say there's a shortage of candidates in every marketing tool, but certainly quality candidates, people who are very good at what they do. There's always a shortage across the board, I think.
All right, thanks, Joe. Jamie, is this any different than any other specialism you've worked in the past? Isn't this always the way of it? And perhaps it's the reason why companies will turn to us. You know, if there's a shortage in their mind, as the agency experts, we're supposed to go find them, and if not find them, somehow create them, aren't we?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I agree with the last two comments completely, actually. I think in terms of there's a lot of people out there, and there's a lot of okay people out there, but I think if you look at some of the market conditions and what that's done for sort of current needs, I think the recession meant that when now you're looking for the sort of senior doer level, so the sort of 35 to 60k, so senior individual contributors, I think especially if you're looking at, I don't know, programmatic or specialist skill sets within those areas, the technologies haven't been around for a huge amount of time, but also if you look at the more generic roles, companies weren't necessarily recruiting heavily throughout the recession, and now kick it on a couple of years where everything gets incredibly buoyant across all sectors. So I think what we found now, whether it be telco, FS, retail, gaming, for completely different reasons, there's a huge pull on talent. And I think if you add all of those factors in together, it means that top talent is incredibly hard to find. And I think now as those standards have also gone up, we've I guess the mayhem went down a little bit during the recession, so people were a little bit more thorough in terms of their recruitment practices. I think that's continued now, and when you really put candidates through rigorous interview processes, yeah, I think it shows the lack of talent that's out there. And I think, like one of the previous comments as well, we're finding that we're looking for absolute superstars that are looking to take that next step up, because clients can't blow up our budgets just to pay an extra 20k to get the right person on board. So you're looking for the superstars that are ready to step up, and then you'll get longevity of hire. But no, I think there always has been a lack of great talent within this sector.
So that takes me to an interesting theme, guys, that you're saying that there's some talent out there, but it's not great talent or not the right talent. What actually makes it the right digital marketing specialist? Carry on if you want, Jamie, and then I'll kick it over to the other guys. What makes the right digital marketing specialist?
I guess someone that is staying current to the latest trends and technologies that's going out there. But I think a lot of it goes back to some just sort of core hiring, whether this is digital or any one of the digital disciplines. I think a lot of the time it is just getting the basics right. So it's the impact of the person, not doing what I do terribly, which is waffling on, but someone that's succinct and that can build business cases and that can talk to senior management and sell in ideas. And I think it's just what we all look for a great candidate in any area. I think when you apply those principles, a lot of people fall down, but I think that's partly a fault of the recruitment industry as well, for not giving enough back when it comes to training about how to construct a CV, how to put achievements, when it comes to, I know, UX designers, what makes a great portfolio. And I think that's us working with industry and helping to educate as well, so that people can look at how to prepare themselves for a process correctly.
All right, I appreciate that. I think we're going to help answer one of the nice air bubbles you've got flying by you there, Jamie, as well.
Yeah, that's going to be appealing our marketing manager who thought it was a great idea for bubbles. Just to distract me.
And it worked. But one of our commenters, one of our viewers already, John, is actually already asking this sort of question too. But how are we defining what makes a good digital recruiter? So Mark, how are you guys defining it?
Are you talking to me, or are you talking to the other Mark?
Which Mark?
You're the guest.
Important one.
Okay. Okay. Well, how we're defining that, a lot of it is being able to understand the technology. So where they're talking about the analytics, that's more the technical side of marketing. Being able to understand and speak in, the candidate's language, for example. But at the same time, the marketing role also involves creative. So you've got the art and science, as Dave likes to call it. It's blending the two. I think to be able to get the right digital marketing candidate, you need to be able to see what technical ability and kind of how they can interpret data, for example, to then inform the creative. So, but then at the same time, they've got to be able to have a good way with words, or be, let's say, Photoshop, using any sort of graphic design platforms. Not necessarily be as good as a UX designer on it, but the ability to, let's say, create some sort of content that's visual that then you can promote on social media. Then track a UTM code that then shows you what platform they come from to then interpret that. So it's understanding the two parts of what the person's going to actually be doing.
So Mark, Stevens also wants us to talk about passive candidates. I think we might come back to that one a little bit, because I'm not quite sure that these guys really are passive. It sounds like they're pretty active anyway. But Joe, what about for you? It sounds like we've got a couple different definitions going on here. There's the sort of the client-facing content part of a digital, but then there's those really technical guys, the SEO whiz-bang guys, the ones that used to wear the black hats. Do you see it? Is there a definition that makes a digital specialist, or is it anyone or all of the above?
If we're talking about what makes a good digital candidate for clients, I think it definitely depends on the skill set and the client. it depends on personality, and a lot of the time, if you're a digital marketer, broad digital marketer, for example, then your personality can have a lot to do with whether you get hired and whether you're perceived as being a good candidate for a particular client or not. On the other hand, like you say, if the analytics guys or the developers or guys who tend to sit with their earphones in all day, kind of plodding along with their work, or getting along with their work rather, then the personality has less of an impact, and it is all about what they can or can't do. And I think, but in general, I think it is a kind of a mix of both in a lot of situations. You have to be able to do the job. You have to be able to have the experience and the skills required, but you have to get along with your team as well, and you have to fit into the environment that you're interviewing for, and you have to want to work there. It's a variety of things. In terms of what makes a good digital recruiter, I think a digital recruiter, first and foremost, is a recruiter. So first and foremost, is a salesperson who has the ability to understand from clients and candidates what they're looking for, and to be able to match those. Second to that, but very, very important, is how digital savvy they are and how in tune with their market they are. But I think sometimes we are in danger of getting hung up on the importance of that. First and foremost, I'd say a digital recruiter is a recruiter.
I appreciate that. I think you're quite right. Let's start right back to the basics. If you're not a good recruiter to begin with, you're not going to be a good digital recruiter. Simon, when you sort of looked at revamping the awards a little bit, and digital became a little bit more than just marketing, what actually made you go that way, and how are you defining digital versus the standard marketing type people? And Simon's muted. Louis, can you unmute Simon?
Go on, Danny.
No, I can't seem to, so I'm going to have to try and find the unmute button.
The joys of technology.
This will make great viewing.
I mean, Alan, just adding like one point to that, I think I agree in terms of I think we do get hung up on the digital piece as opposed to recruitment. And the one thing I really concur with, good recruitment in any sector is about doing those basics well. And I think that's something that the majority of the feedback that I get from clients is, yes, that we understand our sector, but it's when we do the good processes really, really well, and literally from the start of the process through to when everything's delivered, just that everything is done incredibly well, so that you have the conversations with the candidate about counter offers, early doors, and that you map out all of their salary expectations correctly. You've got all of the finer detail, and I think that does get overlooked in digital because we feel that we should have a pool table and table tennis, and sometimes you just lose the fact that actually, first and foremost, we are here to help get people jobs and to guide them through that process.
Well, I think you're right about that, and if we kind of look at the background on Mark 1's screen, that looks like there's a giant Google sign in the back, and we all think that that's what the digital is all about, isn't it? Is that kind of environment. But I think you're right. I think it's easier for us to lose that this is about recruiting basics. A couple of our commentators out there in our audience are already pointing this out, that, hey, it isn't just about LinkedIn. Luke even went so far as to say LinkedIn equals lazy, as opposed to...
I think it's how you use LinkedIn as well, isn't it? I mean, LinkedIn for us is an incredibly valuable tool, but as a mapping tool to see where talent is, it's not necessarily the tool you use to reach out to the candidates.
All right, so we're going to have this commentary. I think we might as well talk about it a little bit until we can figure out how to get Simon, live and able to talk again. We've talked a little bit about what makes a good digital recruiter. Well, how are your good digital recruiters going out to find those digital specialists? We've mentioned LinkedIn, Facebook, Google+. We're on that platform now. Are those platforms enough, or do we need to be doing something different? Joe, how do you go find them?
I think those platforms are very useful, but in terms of doing something different to engage with candidates on there, we speak to candidates, and we approach. No, don't get me wrong, we approach people on LinkedIn through direct messaging as quite a significant part of the recruitment that we do. But these candidates are getting a lot of messages through all of these channels. So how we try and differentiate ourselves is the marketing that we use to differentiate our business is definitely content creation. And we blog a lot. We blog a lot on topics we think our clients, candidates, and peers would be interested in. We publish those through our website and through LinkedIn and a variety of social media platforms like Twitter, etc. And that is how we try and engage candidates to come to us, as well as being more receptive when we go to them. So yeah, absolutely, those platforms are useful in the modern age of recruitment, whether it be in digital or not. But also, what I'm reticent to do is to forget like you say, the kind of more established routes to market, like networking, generating referrals from your peers, clients, candidates, and really engaging on more of a human level, to generate more business. And it is still kind of how we're seeing it as a major way of success, is by referral and networking in the true sense. It's still a human interaction at the end of the day. Candidates and clients will still come back to you because they want to work with you more and more often. And yeah, it's all about giving people a good experience and engaging them and trying to help them to help us with future work.
All right, so, and thanks, Joe, for that. I think you're right, but let's ask Mark that question too. Is Mark, your guys with Dave and you guys, you're out there always looking at trying to help people find some other new cool tools to be using to go find people and engage with them. Don't we have to have those basics skill sets that Joe was talking about and that Jamie has talked about first before we start introducing all this? Hey, we can now go find them in in all these other great places.
Yeah, I think so. It's two good points back then. I think a lot of it is what we do with whenever a client comes on board is we understand the personas. So we make like semi-fictional representation of the people that we want to attract with, either whether it be customers or internally, it could be what candidates we want to pull in. That way, we understand, it's all, understanding their lifestyle, their pains, their goals, and then that informs the content that then we go ahead and create. At the same time, we need to understand what platforms they're on, and it's not, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Facebook's great for using paid advertising organically and trying to reach people that way. It's quite difficult. Twitter's great for listening and understanding what content to create, and then LinkedIn's a great platform for positioning yourself as that thought leader. Using Pulse, getting the CEO or the MD and the head of departments. The recruitment consultants to kind of pick their niche and run with that and create content around it so it positions them as an expert. But I think the basics of understanding where the candidate, where do they want to go from there, let's say they join your company, where do they want to be in 3 to 5 years? If you can play into where they see themselves and their ambitions, you kind of build that rapport that you kind of understand who they are as a person. And just like Joe said, on the human level, your content and everything that you create and your whole brand, we try and focus it around that focus point.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Mark. And I note that it looks like we might have Simon back. Simon, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, great. We can hear you now.
But the good news about that, Alan, it was my fault all along. I'd accidentally muted myself. I don't know how that is. That's not an ordinary occurrence, me muting myself, as you know.
I know. I was going to say that's something we've been trying to do for years, Simon, and we never figured it out. So well done.
I know. Right. So listen, I don't know where to start with this because all of this is 100% relative. But the relative point that I want to mention, I think, and it is kind of going back a little bit whilst I was muted, is that our standards. I think this is going to be directed mainly at potentially Joe and Mark from PH. Are clients searching for the stars? Are their expectations too high? And should people be accepting of the fact that you can teach them skills, but you can't teach culture. And I think Joe's point earlier was 100% well made, which is about getting the people in the culture that fit. And it's even more pertinent, I think, on the agency side, stuff where, I know without broad stroking, and the DNA of an agency person is not too dissimilar across agencies, I would have thought, whereas the client side brands obviously different for the industry sectors you're in. I think that there's an element of people just thinking that they've got the time, they've got the patience, if you like, to hire people that are basically a wish list, and they've got this thing in their head with how someone should look, and unless they fit that thing, they don't hire them. There's other people out there. Well, my guys, when they speak to their clients directly, are incredibly consultative, and they send through stuff which got 100 points on it, and of those 100 points, if you really nailed it down, you've ended up with 20. And that then makes the person they're trying to find not as difficult as it was they first thought to find. And then when it really boils down to it, it does come back down to the culture. Now, I know when you talk about analytics, you talk about design of websites and stuff. Of course, you've got to be skilled. But I just think, put it back to whoever it was who wants to answer this question. Are clients aiming too high with what they're searching for? There you go.
Nice quick catch-up, Simon. Right, Joe, go ahead.
I think it completely depends on the client and your relationship with them. If somebody trusts you and you tell them what they're looking for is unreasonable, then it's a far easier conversation. But if they've got this, like you say, this view in their head that they're going to get X, Y, and Z for such a price, then you can't stop them to think that. Then you're in trouble. But yeah, of course, client expectation. We always moan about it as recruiters, always out of kilter with reality. But yeah, it goes back to your relationship and the gravitas you kind of created with that client. And yeah, that can be worked on, that can be changed over the time, and if you're proven right or whatever. But yeah, it's always going to be a problem, I think. Especially in a market that sometimes they don't know everything about. You know, sometimes it's in our world anyway. Sometimes it's a non-digital specialist hiring a digital specialist, and they know what they've been told, and you don't know who they've been told that by.
So on this is another point I meant to make earlier, but it's even more pertinent. So thank you for that, Joe. It was mentioned earlier that a recruiter is a recruiter, and they can then recruit in digital just as easy as anything else. Well, actually, I kind of disagree with that to a certain extent, because I think where you're talking about working with clients, consulting with them about their needs, if you've come from the industry, as is there are hundreds of them in the digital recruitment industry that aren't recruiters, haven't been recruiters, they are now, but before their agency side, and they understand the technical stuff, they understand what the client's talking about. Does that not help the recruitment, which is no longer, let's face it, a KPI-driven, smash the phone up industry that it was 15 years ago? Does coming from the agency side background or marketing background in general not help recruitment these days?
I think it depends on the individual, again, ultimately. I think if you look at the sort of core aspects, you need that knowledge of the sector, which is great. But you've mentioned as well, trying to explain to someone how complex the role of a recruiter is. I think unless you've done our job and it's drove you insane, you don't quite understand why it does. And the complexity it is. And when you're trying to train a grad and all the little things that you've got to try and teach them, where it can all fall out in the process. So I think both things are essential. But interesting enough, probably two of our most successful experienced hires come from completely different sectors. One from financial services, there was a technology angle to it, and the other from engineering. Both of them had to invest a huge amount of time to learn the sector, but they were both interested. And I think that was in their own time. They were reading up, they were going to events. So as long as there's that investment, but first and foremost, they were great recruiters that wanted to join an interesting, ever-changing, fast-moving sector. And when then new technologies come along, they're learning it as quickly as someone else as well. So I think it's a combination of both, but equally, people from industry side that have got that drive, have got that sort of sales mentality to them, and one soul start with the subject matter, and obviously they've got a contact network. As long as they can apply it in the way that we need them to, they're obviously exceptional. And I think I've had people from both backgrounds fail, like we probably all have. But again, it's just about getting that right person that's got all of those unique points.
All right, that's great,
Yeah,
Jim. I
great.
appreciate that, and that's a good theme, Simon, that you kicked us off on. Just going to do a quick reset for our audience and budding audience. This is hashtag RecHangout. Today we're talking about how to find and recruit those missing digital marketing specialists, but we're also talking, of course, about how as recruitment businesses do we make sure we got the right people in place to do that job. And we've got a great panel of Joe Curtis, Jamie Weber, Mark Russell, and Mr. Simon himself from the MDRA Awards, Simon Lewis, which are coming up in a couple weeks' time. He won't tell us who the winners are yet. Apparently they haven't been decided, but perhaps we can call FIFA and they'll help us figure out how to do that kind of voting. Anyway, so we've talked a bit about the themes of what we think our own recruiters need to look a bit about. We've talked a little bit about some of the different tools or ways to go try and find these missing specialists. We've had some really good themes going on over here in the webinar jam. It's been quite robust among some of our viewers, if you will, who kind of just ignore us and go off on their own, which is fantastic. But a lot about the various channels: Facebook, yes or no; LinkedIn, yes, no, 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 yes. Not many people talking about Google Plus, which is surprising, seeing as how we're using their platform. But one of the other themes that's been coming up is, well, the active-passive thing, which we could talk to death about. But the other theme is also about when we're assessing those candidates. We're in the digital world. It doesn't seem to be a consensus on whether or not using video should be a real big part of that. Mark 1, are you guys using video? You say that?
Yeah, we're using we use video quite a lot. It's a great way that we use video is going back to the point that Simon made on culture, is the explainer video, for example, 2-minute introductory about who the company is, what their values are, what they represent. If you can get those key core aspects in a video across, then the candidate automatically knows this company suits who I am, it suits my personality. And if you can do that, it also screens out people that who are relevant and who aren't relevant, for example. So yeah, I would say video is a really good tool to use.
What about getting candidates to create profiles on video, Mark?
So like video CV type videos, is that?
I hate it calling video interviewing. I think it's more getting an idea of the candidate's presentation, communication skills and personality. I wouldn't go as far as to say that was an interview, but just interested to understand what you think the value is in supporting a candidate's application using video.
Well, if they're going to be marketing applicants, then they need to be able to be comfortable with video technology. And let's say they're going to the marketing role and they've got to create a vlog or a video type blog, then you want them to be able to be comfortable in front of camera. If they're not, through being able to sell themselves, then we could question whether or not they'd be the right person in a marketing role, because video is becoming quite a big. Well, we advise it to every client, and pretty much every one of our clients will use video of some sort, whether that's Vine, Instagram, or a YouTube video.
All right. So Jamie, you brought a marketing specialist into the business, who's sitting there waiting expectantly and blowing bubbles. But how are you going to use that marketing? Are you going to use the video to go out and attract people and engage with both your customers and your candidates?
I'll pass you over to Billy at this point. I think you've all said she's much prettier than me as well, so I'll leave the room.
You don't need to leave the room.
Yeah. Hi, Billy. Welcome to the show.
I was busy tweeting, as marketing managers do.
Yeah, I know. And we've had quite a few people out there on Twitter today. Ruth, Rose, Audra, who's doing it from the East Coast. Hi, Audra. Alicia, and a couple others. So this whole piece about video, Billy, do you see that as important not only for attracting new recruiters into your business, but also engaging with the candidates?
I do, but I think it goes hand in hand with bringing it offline, going back to basics, meeting people face to face. I think you don't get caught better than when you're face to face. And video's great, but we've had this internal kind of debate as we have videos online at the moment. And when you, especially in recruitment where you can have turnover of employees, those videos become outdated quite quickly. Unless you keep on top of them, then yeah, you've got a bit of a problem. But they're great, but it comes hand in hand with like marketing. You should complement everything you do across all I've lost the word now, channels, to complement each other. So you shouldn't be using you shouldn't be one track horse.
What about what we're doing right now? I mean, this is face-to-face. I mean, yes, I know we saw each other face-to-face now in London, but this is face-to-face, isn't it?
It is, and it's live, and it's great because but we're also backing it up with people going crazy over this on LinkedIn. They're going crazy over it on Twitter. We're doing it hand in hand with, we've got the guys in the office watching it, and we're tweeting, and it's all about complementing it, and then people, no doubt, all of us are going to go away and do blog posts and embed the YouTube video into that and share the YouTube video and get people watching it again and stir up more debate.
All right, excellent, and thank you for stepping in front of Jamie. I'm sure our audience has just gone up a great number now.
Not at all.
All right, Joe, how do you see video? Is it part of that digital marketing specialist kit that we just have to have?
I personally don't think it's essential. I think that if clients would like to use it to assist for our candidates to assist application, then fine. I don't think it should. Only in extreme circumstances, I think, should it replace a face-to-face kind of physically face-to-face interview. I think it's very helpful. Obviously, technology like this is really helpful, but a simple fact that it hasn't been flawless in the running so far due to connection and all of that sort of thing, I think is testament to the fact that it's not quite as good as physically being in the same room as somebody. Is it beneficial? Yes. Are there circumstances where it should be used? Absolutely. But could it at any stage kind of substitute physically being in the same room with someone? I certainly hope not.
Can I jump in here? Surely the marketing element is the groundwork that's being done before we actually engage with the candidates. I'd like to give you a statistic to show you how video can actually have a massive impact in terms of the way that we market an opportunity. So we had the same job advertised on 2 pages. On one page we had a video next to it with the client's profile, an overview of what the client was all about, really nicely put together video, also with links to their social channels and a Why Work For Us sort of brochure with some case studies in. We converted twice as many candidates from the page that had the video, where people had watched the video, than the page where it was just the advert. So I think there is definitely a role to play in utilising video alongside content that describes the opportunity as the first stage in the process, or as part of the process.
We did actually use internally for our own recruitment as well. A company approached us about creating some video content, so we got a couple of experienced guys to talk about the culture of the company. We were looking for grads at the time, and a couple of the graduates that just sort of been through the journey and been trained to talk about their experience. And the response rate on that compared to other channels was much greater, and the quality. We didn't ultimately hire through it, but I probably met about 14 to 16 good quality candidates. And we just didn't quite get there, but the response was pretty good.
So I think it's an interesting concept, and I'm glad we've talked a bit about the whole video piece, because to me there's always, I think even as an industry, we keep confusing video screening, so using pre-recorded videos so that we can help narrow things down and be able to also share that content with a hiring manager. Video interviewing, which can be what we're doing right now, either on a Hangout or on a Skype interview. And that's just the same thing as I've always done on the phone, except now I look at you instead of just hear you on the phone. Some of our debate in our channel on the side has been going along the fact that, well, you should be meeting the people face-to-face anyway. Totally agree. But if my best candidate happens to be sitting in Singapore right now, using a video interview, although as much as I'd love to fly out to Singapore to interview him, this might be a bit more relevant. So I think it's, as recruiting organizations, we have to think about how we mix and match all of these tools: the face-to-face, the CV screen, the video screen, the video interview, the phone interview, and a lot of that is before we even get to the face-to-face interview. And I think, and I think, Jim, you mentioned earlier today, if our clients are starting to use all these tools and we don't, aren't we already behind?
Yeah, I think, I mean, some stats from a lot of my clients now where they have built big in-house recruitment teams. I think a lot of them are running at 80 to 85% direct hire. So they've got big recruitment teams, good quality RPO or in-house recruiters that are successful recruiters that have moved and been attracted over from agency side to client side. They're obviously advertising on LinkedIn. I think we all know if you're advertising as the brand directly, you get greater response. They're using the social channels. They've got sourcing teams, finding the talent directly. So I think when it comes to us, you're already at a point where perhaps it's a tough role and we're getting the tough roles to recruit for. So I think in terms of then what we're looking at, we're not saying don't use those methods. We'll advertise, we'll look at the job boards, and again, sometimes our knowledge allows us to look at the data in a slightly different way, or to look at pools of talent that perhaps the individuals that we're sourcing might not have. But we do a huge amount of market mapping and headhunting, basically the hard yards. So it's using a lot of the stuff that was talked about earlier in terms of, yes, you go to your network, you're asking for referrals, but perhaps you're proactively working that network. So you might need to call 100 great contacts that you've got in an area to beg each and every one of them with lots of coffees to give you some referrals. But you've actually got to proactively work that network, along with using LinkedIn to market map. And pretty much we treat any role now, if it's a specialist role, from 30k to 120k, like it's an exec search. So we've then got that data as well. So if we need to push back, if the client's expectations aren't realistic, rather than just saying to them, no, you need to pay 20k more, we'll actually go to them with the data and say, look, here's where the talent is. You're asking us for people in those companies at 60k, but actually, if you pay 40k, you get that. If you pay 80k, you get that. We can't pull rabbits out of a hat. You've got to look at revising what you're looking for, and then you can have a conversation based on science. So I think it's just going that extra mile, and it's not easy to be a lazy recruiter these days. You've got to do the hard yards.
Well, thanks, Jamie, also for bringing us back to our theme, which Louise wondered if we were going to finally answer, which is how do we actually find these people? We've talked a lot about how we might engage with them, how we might screen them. Mark, Russ, it's kind of kicking it back into your lap, isn't it? How do we actually find these people? Particularly as we've talked about, a lot of our customers are already using the tools that, you know, are last year's tools to a lot of recruiters, you know, LinkedIn, Facebook, posting their ads, using job boards, which nobody's mentioned a job board yet, surprisingly. How do we actually go find those hard to find people?
There's a lot of tools available online. Like there was one that we were using for a while called Sourcebreaker. I'm not sure if anyone's used that before, but it's a really good sourcing tool, and it shows you the candidates on LinkedIn just based off their location, based off keywords, you know, what their interests would be, what their job roles, etc. But at the same time, it's all good finding these people online and then doing a bit of social listening on Twitter, you know, using Hootsuite to find certain what keywords people are typing in, hashtags. It's all good finding that online, but then it's taking them. What we advise as well, it's part of the package when we do like influencer marketing, is it always ends up with an event at the end, so it's an offline event. So we do a lot of research online, we understand personas, then we find who influences the personas, create content and do the social media listening, and then direct them all towards an event. So it's kind of just warming up the leads and the candidates and making them aware that we speak in their language, we understand their pains, we understand what they're interested in, and we understand how the client, being the company, it resonates with what they believe in it and what kind of role they want, and then run an event, for example, like meetup.com, go on there, put it online, and then kind of just build interest about an event that could be a bit of sort of a social type event, but at the same time there's also a discussion topic that's relevant to the personas being the candidates.
Okay, could you just mention the name of that tool again, source tool, because a couple of our readers.
Sourcebreaker.com.
Source broker, okay.
Breaker, sorry, not
breaker.
broker, breaker. But literally this week they've stopped it being free, which ties in quite nicely.
Have you got shares by any chance? Or?
Pardon?
Have you got shares in the company with a little shout out? Yeah.
No, I haven't. It's something that I've found really useful. I mean, from working with Dave quite closely, I've started to go in from recruitment from a marketing point of view. So like some of the tools that I've found from like listening to Dave and Dave coming back, because he does a lot of talks and he's in those circles. They also help with marketing as well. So that, but then at the same time, it's that source breaker basically does Boolean search, but for you. So if you don't get Boolean search, you don't know how to do it. It does it for you, really.
Perfect.
Well, that sounds good, because not many of us still want to write a Boolean search string, do we?
Yeah.
Well, Joe, let me flip this on its head a little bit. Obviously, you've got digital recruiters there, and you're always trying to find better digital recruiters. How are you protecting the ones you've got from all these other guys who are coming and trying to find your great digital recruiter to go work for them?
It's going to be the same theme as most of my answers have been, which is kind of just the kind of human interaction, trying to make sure that they're happy, kind of, rewarding them well for obviously for good work in a variety of ways, enjoying ourselves, trying to have a friendly, enjoyable office and environment that we work in. It's just being a nice, sociable, kind of friendly. We're not a hard targets kind of KPI-led kind of aggressive recruiter. We are we believe we run a pretty nice place to work, and unless I'm really off the mark, I think the guys enjoy working here. But leave them alone.
So just leave them alone, everybody. You heard that. Excellent. So I guess the question, we started out that theme about how do we find them. So we think we know how to find them. We can start screening them. Well, we still got to close the deal. So what is it that actually, when you're searching either for your own staff, digital marketing people, or for your customers, what is it that actually takes them over the edge? Is it, as Joe's talked about, just making sure we've got that personal touch? How do you actually get them over the finish line and actually close the deal to hire that digital marketing specialist? Jamie?
Yeah, I think it's just most of the candidates that we're placing are passive. So it's not trying to put square pegs in round holes, and I'm sort of constantly trying to say to my guys, look, you've got to establish early on in the process, if the role isn't right for someone, there's no point in trying to get them to go to that next interview or whatever. So it's truly understanding what their needs are, and if a top passive talent, it's going to be about I think like Joe mentioned, about the environment, type of company. What are their drivers? So are they financial? Is it because they want to become a head of? I think that's a big one for us in terms of trying to break that barrier and move into management, or come out of a commercial role into a more strategy focused role. It's understanding the individual drivers of that person, and then making sure that the client can really give an honest, realistic appraisal of how their needs can be met. And I think if there's that transparency through the process and they can really see that understanding, even the counter-offer scenario, which is really rife at the minute, hopefully you can just really replay back to them how that meets their needs. So it's just really focusing it back on the individuals and making sure you match correctly between the client and the candidate.
Billy, you wanted to comment to that?
No, you're fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Joe, does that follow in with your theme?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's the point Jamie's made about recruiting for our clients, and that's exactly the same way that we get kind of recruitment consultants over the line to work for us. It's making sure that making sure that the person they're going to be working for is right for them. And for us, there's no, I think they're not gone are the days, but less often hopefully do you find people kind of stringing people along and telling them untruths to get them into jobs. And I think the consequences of that are just that you'll lose time, you'll lose money, and you'll lose that person shortly. So it's all about trying to make sure the opportunity is genuinely right for that candidate, and using all the skills we know that we use on behalf of our clients and securing them the right candidate. We use those skills as well to secure ourselves the right consultants and managers and heads of, or whatever it might be, within our own businesses. So I don't think there's too much difference, to be honest.
No, I mean, to me, it comes back to being recruiting 101. Get the basics right, and we happen to be in a very specialist arena. Simon, let me ask you a question. When you've created the awards, and we're looking at criteria for people that are great digital recruiters or great marketing recruiters, is this sort of close rate and success rate ever part of the criteria?
No, not. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. No, it's not really. It's not part of the criteria as such, but some people want to reference it as part of their own criteria. But do you know what? It's becoming an increasing part of the criteria, or some of the most successful recruiters, this is something I want to come on to, are the ones that are moving away from a contingency model and going down the route of either sole supplier or retained assignments, as I think it's still called. And do you know what? It's underpinned by that word empathy, and all good recruiters are empathetic to their clients. And if you're empathetic to your client, you need to be empathetic to your candidate. So you mentioned earlier, Alan, about what you do to get it over the line. Well, if you're working a preferred supplier agreement or a sole supplier or retained assignment, you've got a job half done in the first place, and it comes down to employer branding. So can I try and show you something? Yeah? Can you hear me?
Right.
Right, yeah, let me try and show you something. Hang on, look. Right there. Can everyone see that? Oh, hang on. Can everyone see that?
British Museum.
Right. So that's what I meant to show you first time around, obviously. Right. Listen, this is a.
I didn't know you're a Liverpool fan.
Oh yeah, big Liverpool fan. Yeah, right. Listen, so this is a job on my job board. It's for the British Museum, obviously. These guys, all that role is a junior project manager. Okay. So the thing with that is that those guys have paid to have their client branded job on there. You can imagine from a recruiter perspective, if you're a recruiter and you've got amongst other recruiters, you've got a standard job, which is amongst other recruiters' standard jobs, nothing's going to stand out. If you client brand that job and you put it in this instance, British Museum, the success or the return rate in terms of applications is at least 8 times when you've got a client branded role. And the reason being is that we can market a client branded role and we can't market a standard recruitment contingency job, as you would find it difficult to as a recruiter, as you would if you're a client. Obviously, you've got that client brand already built in, but it's just differentiation. And I think it comes back to that word empathy. And if you're empathetic to your needs and you're recruiting digital, you've got to be digital, haven't you? And in the same way as your engineering, you've got to fit whatever fits that mold of your industry. So that's what I just wanted to show. I want to show you off my job board, first of all, and get on Billy's nerves also at the same time. But hopefully you've got what I'm trying to say there. Client branded stuff is the way to go.
So how are you going to fix that problem for the recruiters then, Simon?
Well,
recruiters can't post an advert that's branded and the clients are getting an unfair advantage. That sounds like there's an opening in the market.
Well, it's an opening for a market for a recruiter who wants to think more like a media agency, that wants to think a little bit more strategically, consultative, and try, and if they've got the relationships built with their clients and they're able to switch that contingency model into a retained assignment model, that's the way to go. Listen, companies are opening their doors in our market, particularly agency side, every day, scores of them. It's ridiculous. But the ones that are doing it are the ones that have built relationships. They've got clients already, and they're all doing it on that third, or 53rd. Now my maths has gone wrong. 50-50.
So
you don't do the maths over there, do you?
I definitely don't, mate. No.
If you think about, I might say something. If you think about most inbound digital marketing people now, experienced inbound digital marketing people, they're extremely passionate. They feel, I think we all feel like we're on a bit of a crusade to change whatever niche we're in, and drag the situation into the sort of 21st century. And I'd say a lot of companies, especially small to medium ones, don't understand marketing, especially modern marketing. So there's a good opportunity, and a lot of digital recruiters are doing it already, to actually engage these candidates genuinely around the passion that they share. It might be an obvious point, but if I was being recruited by a recruiter I knew who understood inbound marketing and shared that passion, and I could trust him that the company they were recruited to understood the importance of inbound marketing, cultural values, working with the sales team properly, had the right technology, would allow experimentation. If I could trust the recruiter and therefore trust their client, I think they've got to stand a lot more chance of engaging successfully than, say, directly applying to or directly replying to a company where you're not going to know from the outside, as much as their employee branding might do, even the British Museum, whether the MD you're going to be working for has any understanding of marketing. They may do. I just want to I know there are many businesses that probably don't understand. You're chucked in the deep end, no doubt, and then you don't get an ROI after the year and you get fired. So.
Louis, that's a very nice thought for all of our guests, that they might get fired. I appreciate that you brought that up for them. Right, we're nearing the end of the time. There's only a few minutes left, so I think I'm going to hand over to each of you to do a quick sort of one-liner or so on your top lesson for our audience on how to find and recruit the missing digital marketing specialist. Where's Wally? And I'm unfortunately going to have to sign off because I knew I was going to get it in, Louis, because unfortunately I've got a conference call in 2 minutes with a client, and of course the client does have to come first. So thank you everybody from my side. Louis will finish off the wrap up, but Jamie, over to you. How are you going to find that top digital marketing specialist in 25 words or less? Thanks.
Just put in the hours, work incredibly hard, and use every single tool we've just discussed. But yeah, do the hard yards. That's it.
Over to you, Joe.
Yeah, I'd say really have to work hard, but proactively search relevant businesses and operate as Jamie said earlier. Credit here to you, Jamie. Is operate like a search, and you'll definitely differentiate yourself from competition.
Okay. Mark.
Yeah, I'd say search a lot online, use the tools available, social media tools, sourcing tools, create content that's based off what social listening you can gather, and then creating an offline event at the end to kind of close the deal.
Simon?
I'm going to go back to my be empathetic and do stuff differently. I'd also like to thank personally Mark, Jamie and Joe for coming on this show. Really, really appreciated.
Yeah. I mean, I should have mentioned at the beginning that Joe and Jamie's businesses are both finalists in the awards. I believe Free Search is finalist for Best Newcomer, and RedCat Digital as a finalist for a number of areas, including Best Niche Agency, Best Candidate Experience. But we'll hopefully see.
We only want one.
Focus. It's focus. But we'll hopefully see all you guys there on the 25th of November, and some of those who are watching. I'll be there. I'll be there with my colleague Dan. So it'd be good to meet people in real life rather than across this video technology nonsense. So it'll be good. And Simon, talk to Simon if anyone's watching and they haven't entered about next year's awards. I'm sure he can tell you some more information. And it'll be good to see. Mark, are you going along to the awards this year?
No, I'm not going to be there, unfortunately.
Well, it'd be good to see Dave there as well. And if anyone who's watching is interested in finding more about modern digital marketing in terms of learning about it, do speak to PH Creative, because they're a good company. And there's a nice plug for you. Next RecHangout is in December, our Christmas one, so I'm sure everyone will be wearing ridiculous jumpers. I won't be. RecHangout hashtag. We're going to be talking about business planning, successful recruitment business planning for 2016. That's on the 10th of December, so a Thursday rather than our usual slot from 12 o'clock. And we're joined by a number of guests, so just keep a lookout on the colleague blog for more information about that. Thank you, guys. Thank you all for joining us. I think we're
Cheers,
about
Louis.
wrapped up, so
Thanks,
take care.
guys.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.